Welcome back to our UK Singles Chart review, where this time, we're detailing the artists and songs that reached number 1 during 1971. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of new content. Thanks. First up, it's Dave Edmunds, who just makes it onto the list, as the first 2 days of 1971 saw the end of I Hear You Knocking's run at the top of the chart. Edmunds first made the UK Singles Chart in December 1968 with his band Love Sculpture, reaching number 5 with their high-speed cover version of the classical piece Sabre Dance. After they split, Edmunds hit the number 1 spot with his cover version of I Hear You Knocking, a song written by American musician Dave Bartholomew and first recorded by Smiley Lewis. Edmunds had intended to record a version of Wilbert Harrison's Let's Work Together, but he was beaten to it by Canned Heat, so he took the arrangement he intended to use and adapted it to I Hear You Knocking. It became 1970's Christmas number 1, staying at the top for 6 weeks, and it eventually sold over 3 million copies. Dave Edmunds soon had his only acting role, appearing as a band member in the David Essex movie Stardust. He learnt the trade of music producer, which culminated in a couple of singles in the style of Phil Spector. Edmunds' version of the Ronettes' Baby I Love You reached number 8, and a version of the Chordettes' Born to Be With You peaked at number 5. Amongst the artists he went on to produce are Dux Deluxe, Flaming Groovies and Foghat. Prior to his retirement from the music business in 2017, Dave Edmunds released 14 studio albums under his own name, in addition to releases with the bands Love Sculpture and Rockpile. Clive Dunn topped the first new chart of 1971 with his song Grandad. Dunn started his acting career in 1935, although it was interrupted by the Second World War, during which he was held as a prisoner of war in Austria for 4 years. He resumed his career after the war, and he made his first television appearance in 1951 in the short film Surprise Attack, and he went on to make many appearances with Tony Hancock, Michael Bentine, and Dick Emery. In 1968 he was cast as Lance Corporal Jones in the BBC sitcom Dad's Army, which ran for 80 episodes until 1977. Although only 48, and one of the younger cast members, he was playing a role many years his senior. Dunn met bassist Herbie Flowers at a party, and he challenged Flowers to write him a song. Flowers wrote Grandad with creation vocalist Kenny Pickett, and Dunn's recording was to top the chart for 3 weeks.
Grandad, Grandad, you're lovely.
Following the success of Grandad, Dunn released several other singles, but he never hit the chart again and is regarded as a one-hit wonder. Dunn continued to play Lance Corporal Jones in Dad's Army until 1977. After this, he capitalized on his reputation for playing elderly characters by playing the character Charlie Quick in the children's TV series Grandad from 1979 until 1984. He spent the last 3 decades of his life in the Algarve, Portugal, and occupied himself as an artist. He passed away in 2012 at the age of 92. Following Clive Dunn to number 1 was George Harrison with My Sweet Lord. After the breakup of the Beatles, George Harrison released All Things Must Pass, his 3rd studio album. The album reflects the influences of Bob Dylan, the band, Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, and Billy Preston, and demonstrates Harrison's growth as an artist. My Sweet Lord was released as the album's lead single. Harrison wrote the song in praise of the Hindu god Krishna, and it heralded the arrival of his distinctive slide guitar technique. Among the musicians on the recording are Ringo Starr, Eric Clapton, Gary Brooker, Bobby Whitlock, and members of the group Badfinger. My Sweet Lord was the first number 1 single by any of the ex-Beatles in either the UK or the USA, and it was the biggest selling single of 1971 in the UK, topping the chart for 5 weeks.
My sweet Lord.
George Harrison went on to organize the 1971 concert for Bangladesh with Indian musician Ravi Shankar, which was a precursor to benefit concerts such as Live Aid. In 1978, Harrison co-founded Handmade Films, initially to produce Monty Python's The Life of Brian. He went on to serve as executive producer for 23 films, including Mona Lisa, Shanghai Surprise, and Withnail and I. He released 12 studio albums, and his final album Brainwashed was released posthumously in November 2002, a year after his death at the age of 58. Up next, it's Mungo Jerry with Baby Jump. Mungo Jerry's name was inspired by the poem Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer from T.S. Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. Their first single was the 1970 #1 hit In the Summertime, which was the first maxi single ever released, and it was unusual in that it played at 33 1/3 RPM rather than the usual 45. Baby Jump gave Mungo Jerry their second and final UK #1. Like their debut single, it was released as a maxi single, with a second track on the A-side called The Man Behind the Piano. The B-side had a playing time of 9 minutes and 50 seconds, which included live recordings from their appearance at the Hollywood Festival in Staffordshire in May 1970. Baby Jump originally entered the chart at number 32, before dropping off due to a lack of sales data caused by a national postal strike, before re-entering the chart and going on to register itself as #1 for 2 weeks. Mungo Jerry's next charting single, Lady Rose, followed in May 1971 and was also a maxi single. It looked set to become another #1 hit, but it was temporarily withdrawn from sale by order of the Public Prosecution Office. This was due to complaints about the inclusion of the traditional song Have a Whiff on Me, which was suspected to advocate the use of cocaine. Mungo Jerry went on to have 8 UK top 50 singles. In the 1980s, Ray Dorset became part of the blues supergroup Kathmandu, with Peter Green, formerly of Fleetwood Mac, and Vincent Crane, formerly of Atomic Rooster and the Crazy World of Arthur Brown, and they recorded the album A Case for the Blues. Mungo Jerry have continued to tour and record over the years, with Ray Dorset being the only ever-present member, and they have recorded 21 studio albums. After Mungo Jerry, T-Rex were the next artist to claim the #1 spot, with Hot Love. The band was formed as Tyrannosaurus Rex in London in 1967 by singer-songwriter and guitarist Mark Bolan, who was to be their leader, frontman, and only constant member. They were initially associated with psychedelic folk, though this began to change towards electric rock in 1969, and the band name was shortened to T-Rex the following year. This culminated in their 1970 hit single Ride a White Swan, which peaked at #2 in the UK singles chart, and the group became pioneers of the glam rock movement. Hot Love was released in February 1971, and the two performances on Top of the Pops, which saw Mark Bolan dressed in shiny satin wear and glittery makeup, were a crucial trigger for glam rock. The song rose to #1 in the chart, where it stayed for 6 weeks. Hot Love saw the debut of comedy duo Flo and Eddie providing backing vocals on a T-Rex record. They would continue to work with T-Rex on their albums Electric Warrior and The Slider, as well as working with artists such as Frank Zappa, Steely Dan, Alice Cooper, and many others. Hot Love was the first of 4 #1 hits for the band, and they would reach #1 again later in the year. More of that in a while. The band released Dandy in the Underworld, their final studio album, in 1977, and several months after the album's release, Mark Bolan died in a car crash at the age of 29. The group disbanded. Next up to the #1 spot was Dave and Ansel Collins with their hit single Double Barrel. Dave and Ansel Collins are a Jamaican duo consisting of keyboard player Ansel Collins and vocalist Dave Barker. The pair were working for producer Lee Scratch Perry in Kingston in the late 1960s, and they joined forces in 1970 for the single Double Barrel. It was the first song that a then 18-year-old drummer named Sly Dunbar played on. Dunbar went on to become one half of the prolific Jamaican rhythm section and production duo Sly and Robbie. Double Barrel became the second reggae tune to top the UK singles chart, 2 years after Desmond Decker's #1 hit Israelites. It stayed at #1 for 2 weeks. Dave and Ansel Collins had one more UK top 50 hit with the song Monkey Spanner, which reached #7 in July 1971. After recording an album, the duo parted, with Collins becoming a session player and Barker singing with several soul groups. Collins has worked with artists including The Upsetters, Barrington Levy, Gregory Isaacs, and Jimmy Cliff. The duo reunited for several live shows in 2012, including a performance at the Notting Hill Carnival. Dawn had the next #1 with their hit, Knock 3 Times. Dawn was an American pop group that was composed of singer Tony Orlando and backing vocalists Thelma Hopkins and Joyce Vincent Williams. Tony Orlando was a recording artist in the 1960s who had moderate success, charting with the song Bless You in 1961. In 1970, Orlando was working as a music executive when he received the song Candida. He recorded the song with background singers and session musicians, but it was released under the name Dawn to protect Orlando's identity for contractual reasons. The song was a hit, and the same group recorded the follow-up Knock 3 Times, which upon release also protected the identity of the performers, even showing a fictional group on the record cover. Knock 3 Times reached the UK #1 spot and stayed there for 5 weeks.
Oh my darling, knock 3 times on the ceiling if you want.
In order to promote Dawn's records, a live act was formed, and Orlando asked former Motown and Stax backing vocalists Thelma Hopkins and Joyce Vincent Wilson to join him. The group went on to have 6 UK top 50 hits before going their separate ways in 1977, after which Tony Orlando had a solo career. They reformed in 1988 for a tour that ended up lasting until 1993. They have since reunited on numerous occasions, and both Thelma Hopkins and Joyce Vincent Wilson joined Tony Orlando on stage at his retirement concert on the 22nd of March 2024. Next up at #1, it was Middle of the Road with Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep. The members of Middle of the Road had played together under the name Part 4 since 1960, and they later played with a Latin American style under the name Los Caracas. As Los Caracas, they entered and won the British TV talent show Opportunity Knocks. As they felt they had not found success in the United Kingdom, they moved to Italy in 1970, where they met Italian music producer Giacomo Tosti, who gave them their distinctive sound. Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep is a song that was first recorded in 1970 by Lally Stott. Stott's version was first released in Italy, where he was living at the time, and it entered the Italian top 20. His record company was reluctant to release it overseas, and they offered it to Middle of the Road. Recorded as their debut single, Middle of the Road's version failed to chart in Italy, but it became a hit in continental Europe and topped the UK chart for 5 weeks. Middle of the Road went on to have 5 UK top 50 hits, with the last coming in 1972. Early Bay City Rollers member Neil Henderson joined the band on guitar in 1974. Original singer Sally Carr left the group 3 years later, and the band continued on with an altered line-up. Carr rejoined the group for live dates in Europe in 2017, and they released their first single in over 20 years the same year, which was a live recording of their 1970s hit, Soli Soli. Following Middle of the Road to the #1 spot, it was T-Rex, with their second chart topper of the year, Get It On. After the band had 3 charting singles under the name Tyrannosaurus Rex, they shortened their name to T-Rex. They reached #2 with their next single, Ride a White Swan, and the follow-up single Hot Love gave them the first of their 4 #1 hits. Get It On was retitled Bang a Gong in the United States to avoid confusion with a song of the same name by the group Chase. It is the song that ended the once solid friendship between Mark Bolan and the DJ John Peel, after Peel made clear his lack of enthusiasm for the song live on air after playing his advance copy. Irrespective of this, Get It On reached the top of the chart and stayed there for 4 weeks. In 1985, the rock and pop supergroup The Power Station covered Get It On, and it reached #22 on the UK singles chart. T-Rex would go on to have a total of 19 UK top 50 hits, in addition to their singles released under the name Tyrannosaurus Rex. T-Rex, and specifically Mark Bolan, percussionist Mickey Finn, bass player Steve Curry, and drummer Bill Legend, were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2020. Diana Ross was next to occupy the #1 spot with I'm Still Waiting. Following her departure from the Supremes in 1970, Diana Ross embarked on a successful solo career. She released her debut album in June 1970 and followed it up with her second album, Everything Is Everything, towards the end of the year. I'm Still Waiting was initially intended only as an album track on Everything Is Everything, but BBC Radio 1 DJ Tony Blackburn featured the song heavily on his morning programme. He persuaded EMI, which issued all Tamla Motown material in the UK, to release the song as a single. I'm Still Waiting reached #1 for 4 weeks and gave Ross her 4th solo UK top 50 hit. The success of I'm Still Waiting led to a retitling in the UK of Ross's 3rd studio album, from Surrender to I'm Still Waiting, and the song was added to the track listing. Diana Ross has had a long and successful solo career. She has released 26 studio albums and has had numerous global hits, including I'm Coming Out, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, Chain Reaction, and When You Tell Me That You Love Me. Ross also achieved success and recognition as an actress. She was nominated for the Best Actress Oscar for her portrayal of Billie Holiday in the film Lady Sings the Blues, and she starred in 2 other feature films, Mahogany in 1975 and The Wiz in 1978. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988 and is one of the rare performers to have 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She has become the recipient of a special Tony Award, the Kennedy Center Honors, 2 Grammy Lifetime Achievement Awards, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Next up to number 1 was American vocal group The Tams with Hey Girl Don't Bother Me. The Tams were formed in 1960 in Atlanta, Georgia, and they took their name from the Tam O'Shanter hats that they wore on stage. They had their first hit in the USA with Untie Me in 1962, and the song Hey Girl Don't Bother Me was a modest hit in the USA in 1964. The group didn't make the UK Top 50 chart until 1970, when their song Be Young, Be Foolish, Be Happy reached number 32. Hey Girl Don't Bother Me became a favorite on the northern soul scene in the UK, leading to the single to be reissued, at which point it reached the top of the chart for 3 weeks. The Tams didn't make the UK singles chart again until they reached number 21 in 1987, with There Ain't Nothing Like Shagging, propelled by a popular dance known as the Carolina Shag. The song ended up banned by the BBC, however, due to the other meaning of the word shag in British English. The Tams had 4 UK Top 50 hits in total. They remained popular in the southeastern United States, and they continue to record new music and perform at well-attended concerts. In recent years, the group has been led by Albert Little Red Cottle Jr., the son of former member Albert Cottle. Rod Stewart followed the Tams to number 1 with his double A-side single, Maggie May, paired with Reason to Believe. Rod Stewart's music career began in 1962 when he took up busking. He went on to join the Dimensions, Long John Baldry, and Jeff Beck's group before joining the Faces in 1969. He also launched his solo career the same year. Stewart's third album, Every Picture Tells a Story, was released in 1971 and was a real breakthrough, topping the charts in the UK, USA, Canada, and Australia. Reason to Believe was written by American folk singer Tim Hardin in 1965, and it was recorded by the Carpenters in 1970, before Rod Stewart included it on Every Picture Tells a Story. Reason to Believe was originally the single's A-side, before the B-side, Maggie May, became the more popular side through radio play as the single climbed the charts. The single went on to spend 5 weeks at number 1.
Oh, Maggie, I couldn't have tried anymore.
Maggie May and Reason to Believe gave Rod Stewart the first of over 40 top 50 solo career singles. His singles have included collaborations with artists such as Jeff Beck, Ronald Isley, Tina Turner, and the Scottish Football Squad. He has reached the number 1 spot on 6 occasions. Stewart is a Grammy and Brit Award recipient, and he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994 as a solo artist, and in 2012 as a member of the Faces. He was knighted in the 2016 birthday honors for his services to music and charity. Stewart continues to perform regularly, and he released his latest album Swing Fever, a collaboration with Jools Holland, in 2024. Our penultimate number 1 for 1971 is Slade with their hit 'Cause I Love You. All 4 members of Slade grew up in the West Midlands, and after a period in different groups, they came together in 1966 as the N-Betweens. After recording some unsuccessful singles, they changed their name to Ambrose Slade in 1969 and released their debut album, Beginnings, which was a commercial failure. Animals bassist Chas Chandler, who had previous management experience with Jimi Hendrix, offered to manage the band, and they accepted. They adopted a change of image, shortened their name to Slade, and released further singles, still without success. Chandler had been managing the band for almost 2 years when they released a version of Get Down and Get With It, a song originally performed by Little Richard. This single gave them their first chart success, peaking at number 16. Chandler insisted that the band write an original song as their next single, and the result was 'Cause I Love You, written by singer Noddy Holder and bass player Jim Lee. It spent 4 weeks at the top of the chart.
I just like the things you do.
Slade went on to have 29 UK top 50 singles, with 6 of them reaching the number 1 spot. Following an unsuccessful move to the USA in 1975, Slade's popularity in the UK waned, but they had an unexpected revival in 1980, when they were last-minute replacements for Ozzy Osbourne at the Reading Festival. For the next couple of years, they produced material tailored towards the heavy metal scene, and they eventually cracked the American market with Run Runaway and My Oh My. Their success did not last, however, and they split in 1992. Guitarist Dave Hill and drummer Don Powell went on to form Slade 2. The band still performs and has been through many lineup changes, with only Dave Hill remaining from the original Slade. Since the breakup of the original Slade in 1992, singer Noddy Holder has appeared on many TV shows, and he has voiced, sung and appeared in many adverts for TV, film and radio worldwide. He has occasionally performed live, and he returned to the stage in 2023 for a series of shows to mark his 60th professional year in showbiz. The final number 1 of 1971 is comedian Benny Hill with Ernie the Fastest Milkman in the West. Hill was born Alfred Hawthorne Hill, and he took the nickname of Benny in homage to his favorite comedian, Jack Benny. He started out after the war as a performer on radio, and his first job in theatre was as Reg Varney's straight man, beating a then unknown Peter Sellers to the role. His first television appearance was in 1949. In the 1950s and 60s, Hill appeared in 5 feature films, including Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and The Italian Job. He had 3 recordings in the UK singles chart between 1961 and 1963. The Benny Hill Show debuted in 1955. The song Ernie was originally written the same year for an unfilmed screenplay about Hill's real-life milkman experience. Hill performed the song on The Benny Hill Show in 1970. Released as a single, the song was number 1 for 4 weeks in December.
And he drove the fastest milk cart in the West.
The Benny Hill Show ran until May 1989, when Hill announced that after 21 years with Thames Television, he was taking a year off. He started work on a new television series in 1991 called Benny Hill's World Tour, which would see him performing sketches in various places around the world where his show had become popular. In February 1992, Thames Television gave in to demands from viewers and started to broadcast re-edited episodes of Hill's show. Hill died in April 1992, on the same day that a new TV contract arrived in the post. He was 68 years old. And that concludes our list of the UK's